Hello out there, and I've got a quick video for you today regarding the WE Knives number 605. But this is not going to be a review or a quick look or an overview or anything quite like that. What I want to talk about today is how I purchased this knife and how I was able to save a lot of money on it and get what I think was a really good deal. You know, in hopes that maybe at some point the scenario that I found myself in is one that you will find and maybe save yourself a few bucks as well. So that's going to be the goal here. If you are looking for a lot of information about this knife and the model specifically, the good news is there are a good number of reviews out there already from some of the big heavy hitters on YouTube as well. So you can definitely find a lot if you just continue searching this model. I think eventually down the road, once I've had this for a good long time, I'll probably do some kind of follow-up video about it. So yeah, long term, you can stay tuned for that. But for today's purposes, I really just want to focus on the odd and interesting situation that got me an excellent deal on this blade. So let me break it down for you. I've had a few WE knives in hand recently, you know, at Blade Show, and then also I had the Rectifier in my hands for a couple days, and most recently the Praktic. And the Praktic was part of the pass around. I reviewed that just a couple videos back, and when I had that knife, I knew I wanted to get a WE of my own. And I was trying to debate between the Praktic and the Rectifier, and was just doing some searches online. And I go on Amazon a lot to search for knives, even though they don't have the most recent stuff, because one, it ships generally very quickly, and I have an account and a credit card with them, so I get cash back, and so it just is beneficial to buy from them if possible. And let me clarify that when I buy from Amazon, I almost always buy from, Amazon themselves and not like a third-party seller on them. And that's where I found this knife. I found this knife shipped and sold by Amazon. There were only 2 left in stock, and I found it for $176. And that sort of jumped out at me because these things sell on Blade HQ and Knife Center at $242. So I saw it at $176, and I was like, man, that is not a bad price, and, if I was going to get the Rectifier or the Praktic, I was only going to spend like 30 or 40 bucks more than that. So, man, do I want to go all the way and get like a titanium, one of the more classic WEs, I guess you would call them. And so I put it in my cart and I was debating it. And then I went back to the page that the knife was on after I already had one in my cart, and it said there was one left, but the price on that one had gone from the 176 that the one in my cart was at all the way up to 228. And that was just really interesting. 228, I mean, it's a big difference. That's almost like full price. And so I went back and looked in my cart, and the one in my cart still said 176. But the one on the page said 228. So again, there were only 2 left. If I buy mine, I get 176. Whoever comes next gets it at 228. And that was a little bit interesting. And, I've seen stuff like that with Amazon before where, just depending on, the supply and demand, they'll adjust prices in order to try to, capture a sale. And that makes sense. And then once there's only, one left in stock, they'll raise that price because, there's only one. So if you want that knife, you'll probably pay for it. And it doesn't have to be a knife. It can be anything. And that's one of the things to take away about this video is that it's not just about knives. I mean, it can be anything that you're looking at that, if there's limited stock, there might be price fluctuations. So anyway, I leave it in my cart at 176. I wasn't really planning on spending that much money anyway. And so I decided to think about it. And then later that night, I go back to Amazon, and I have a little bit of a notification that says that the price has been adjusted for the item that's in my cart. And the price has been adjusted to 167. So there's another 11 bucks off the price. And I was like, all right, well, that makes it a little bit more tempting. And before I went to bed, I checked again, and the one in my cart was down to 163. All right. So at this point, I'm thinking, man, I'm just going to push my luck and see how far I can get this thing to go down. It's in my cart. Obviously, there's some kind of algorithm or something going on where they're trying to tempt me to pull the trigger and complete the transaction. And I wanted to see what they would do, and for a day, nothing else happened. So it's still in my cart at 163. A day goes by. I'm thinking about just pulling the trigger, and I decided if it goes any lower, I'm just going to go for it, and then it did. So like a whole day later, it went all the way down to 155. It said 155, and I knew I had to do it. I mean, at that point, 155, I think that's a pretty darn good deal considering the regular price in most places is 242. So I went for it. I pulled the trigger. I completed the transaction, and then as soon as I did, I went back to the main page for this knife where there was only one left, and that one that was left had gone up to 242. So just an interesting thing, what they're doing is they're looking at trying to get X amount of dollars for the two knives total. They're looking at it, I guess Amazon is looking at it as a group and not just an individual. And they're thinking, well, it'll be easier to sell maybe that last one at a higher price because there aren't any others, and that makes it more appealing to someone who might want it. So that second one, they can just drop further and further. And there's a line to that. They're only going to go so far. And so it's a little bit risky, for me at least, keeping it in my cart and not going for it because sometimes that price can just go back up. But it really worked out in this case because I was able to get what I think is an excellently made knife for a price that you usually can't get it at. So yeah, I just wanted to pass that along to you today because it was just a great experience, an interesting experience, and something that I've seen with other items on Amazon before, but never to this extent. And so I think, yeah, if you're searching, you come across something like that, never a bad thing to throw something in your cart and see what ends up happening. And like I said, in this case, it saved me a ton of money and got me my first WE knife. So very cool experience right there. All right, guys, so that's really all I got. Just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully, maybe it'll be of use to you at some point in the future. But any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, as always, let me know down below. I appreciate you watching, and I will talk with you soon. Have a good one.